Well, good evening and thanks for joining us tonight on News 20 on GTN. I'm Randy Gardner. We have a great show for you tonight. Joining me to my right, a frequent guest from the American Cancer Society. Here on the show, we have April Zubik. Glad you could join us. We appreciate your time.
Thanks for having us.
And to your right, we have Sherry Jurgensen. Glad you could join us here on the show also. We want to start the show off tonight talking about the Road to Recovery program. That's something we've touched on before, but tonight we want to take an in-depth look at it. For the people who don't understand what this is, kind of give us an overview of the Road to Recovery program.
Well, it's a real simple, basic program for a simple and basic need, but it could mean the difference of someone getting to their treatment or not. If you think about it, someone may need frequent rides to treatment, but their family and friends may have to work. So this is a great opportunity for us to pair volunteers up with people who need a ride, and we get them trained.
This is one of those situations that a lot of people, I don't think, really put into perspective. You've just given some bad news. You may have been driving all your life. Now you come to a situation where you can't drive. So you take this Road to Recovery into perspective. You can really help out a lot of people with this. Your thoughts on that, Sherry?
Well, one of the barriers, quite honestly, can be whether or not you can get to the treatment. And in order to be cured, you need to have your treatment. So that might look like a couple of different things. It might be an older person who doesn't drive anymore. It might be someone who, because of the type of chemo that they're going to be taking, they become groggy afterwards and the doctor really doesn't want them to drive home. A lot of people oftentimes have friends and family that care about them and would be happy to drive them, but they either live out of town or they have jobs of their own and they can't keep asking off work in order to make sure that their loved one gets to treatment. So that's where the American Cancer Society comes in. It's not even unusual to have a little senior couple where, you know, they want to go to the appointment together, but neither one of them drive. And so sometimes that's the scenario. So lots of different needs out there, but the bottom line is that we want to get them to their treatment so that they can get well.
As people are hearing this today, as far as what we're talking about is volunteers being needed to be the drivers. Are there any certain qualifications as people start the show off here tonight that might disqualify them or qualify them to do this?
Okay. The qualifications are not difficult. Clearly, we want you to be a safe driver. We do check your driving record. If you like to crash cars or speed, we're probably not going to want you to volunteer for us, obviously. We do run that driver check. We do ask you to have a vehicle of your own that's in good working condition. We do have you use your own gas and your own car. We are able to reimburse at this time at the 14 cents a mile for the miles that you drive. However, you are using your own vehicle. We do require that your vehicle and you be insured. So other than that, and then going through our training that we have, and the training obviously isn't to teach people how to drive, it's more going over liability type issues, things they might experience with the patient themselves, how that patient might be feeling, some of the side effects they might experience, as well as things that might be appropriate to talk about or perhaps not talk about. So that's the bulk of what the training goes over, those type things.
That was going to be my next question, is that a lot of people can volunteer, but this is one of those things, you're going to be in the car with a person who's going to something that's life-changing, whether it's driving them there or driving them home. It's a lot of different scenarios that someone could incur, right. Someone maybe getting sick, but more than that, just being maybe that ear for somebody to spill their guts to if they need to.
Right. And that's all part of the training. We talk about how every patient's different. Some patients are going to get in the car and they're going to just talk your ear off. Other patients are going to want to just sit, maybe even in the back seat, quietly and not talk to you at all. So we kind of go over different things that you might experience, and obviously how to handle emergency type situations if a patient were to become ill or things like that. So But yeah, there's all different types of people, and they have all different things that they're going through. But what I find is the people that want to drive for us, that want to volunteer in this way, oftentimes they're people who have experiences themselves. Either they're recovering or had cancer previously, or they've had a family member who has. So initially, a lot of times the people that come to us are people who already have an experience and already have some understanding of what these patients are going through. So it's not unusual for a bonding to take place, especially now if a person, for example, is going to treatment 5 days a week and they have to have radiation treatments for, say, 6 weeks. That's a lot of rides. So obviously the same person is not going to drive that patient every time. There's going to be several drivers, but in the course of someone's treatment, it's not unusual for a driver to take a patient quite a few times. And so this natural camaraderie just develops, and it's really quite beautiful.
April, as we talk about the American Cancer Society as a whole and everything that you come on the show and talk about, volunteers are the backbone to so many things that you guys do. Talk to us about the feedback, and Sherry, I'll talk to you about this also, but just in general, people who step up to the plate to come and volunteer and help out, once they get involved, it's almost like you can't step away from it.
Oh yeah, it's amazing. People, like Sherry said, they make these great connections, and seeing the mission at work, seeing the impact that we're making on people's lives. These drivers, for example, can know that they might have been the difference between someone getting their treatment or not. It might have been a difference of their survival. So they're making a real impact, and I think that's real powerful. And we have a lot of different opportunities for volunteering. So some of our volunteers may volunteer in a certain area and learn about other programs or the events that we have and want to give back in other ways as well. So we try to keep them involved and make sure they're aware of everything we're able to do.
And we'll talk in a few moments about where you can go to find out more about different opportunities. But Sherry, is that one thing that you hear too, like April said, is that once you get involved, you become attached and you just want to help out more and more and more?
Well, like patients being unique, volunteers are as well. There's volunteers who like to raise money. There's volunteers who, like to work with galas and things like that. For the Road to Recovery program, the volunteer really gets to see firsthand. I mean, they meet the patient, they interact with the patient, they see the patient improve or finish treatment or what have you. So it's a really hands-on way to volunteer. So it's kind of a unique volunteer opportunity. A lot of times you don't have that interaction with the patient if you're not a member of the health community.
So many people worry about time commitments when they start to volunteer. As far as driving, is it something where you can donate as little or as much time as you need? And when you drive somebody, do you have to stay at the visit with them?
Good questions. That's the beauty of this volunteer opportunity. Typically, when someone becomes a volunteer, they pretty much lay out their parameters. They tell us where they're willing to drive, how far, what days they're typically available. And from there, we have a schedule of drivers. So we're only going to call them on a day that they said they're typically available to a cancer center that they will have already agreed to drive to. Now, that's not to say that I call that volunteer, they can't say no. If I call and they already have something going on that day, then they just simply tell me that and we go on to the next person. That in itself, that flexibility, is wonderful from the volunteer's perspective.
As far as numbers, a lot of people, they hear we need volunteers, but until they hear a number attached to it, like 1,000 people a day need these rides, they really think, well, my one self, I can't make that big of a difference. Right. Any certain numbers?
Well, there's always people that need rides, and quite honestly, there's times when we can't accommodate them because we don't have enough drivers. I work particularly with a county that has about 30 drivers. Now that sounds like a lot of drivers starting out, but if I have 2 or 3 patients that are going to radiation treatment every single day for several weeks, I mean, the math speaks for itself. You're using your drivers quite frequently, and you would love to have more. The worst thing is if we have to turn a patient down because we don't have someone to drive. So I would not say that you can have too many. I've yet to see that happen.
As far as information on this program, if someone wants to find specifics about the Road to Recovery, where should they turn to?
Well, we do have a training that's coming up if someone's really interested and they would like to attend the training or learn more about the training. That will be on April the 5th. It will be at our office on Lindell. It will begin at 10 and go to about noon. To sign up for that training, I would call Katie, who is our staff partner, and her number is 314-286-8177. Now, if you are a patient, let's put a little flip on this. If you're a patient who needs the service, you can call our 800 number, which is 800-227-2345. Now that number is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That is the number where a patient, a healthcare provider, a family member, whomever is trying to set up a ride for a patient can call that number, and that will start the process. I might add that it takes about 3 days. So for example, if a patient needs a ride today, that's not going to work out. We need some time just for the logistics, for scheduling the drivers and so forth.
We'll touch on this program again at the end of the show, but April, I know we want to touch on the cancer prevention study.
Right. This is a study that we're doing in St. Louis and nationwide. We're trying to enroll 300,000 participants, and it's the most recent, I should say, in a series of cancer prevention studies that the American Cancer Society has done. What's really neat about this study is that we'll be studying behavioral, lifestyle, and environmental factors that can prevent or cause cancer, and everyday people can enroll in this study. So we need people like you, we need people like Sherry and I to enroll in this study. And research is usually such a big, complex thing that we don't really understand the ins and outs of it. We just want to know the good news that comes out. But we can play an active part in this study. So we're looking in St. Louis for people between the ages of 30 and 65 years old who have never been diagnosed with cancer, and that's why so many people can enroll in this. And they just have to make a long-term commitment to the American Cancer Society, but it's very simple. They'll get a survey, sign up for an appointment, and then when they come to our appointment at several locations around St. Louis, they'll do another short survey. We'll measure the waist, get a blood sample, and they're done, they're enrolled. Every 2 years they'll get a survey again in the mail, and we're going to be following them with questions about the way that they live, the environment that they live in, to make some of those connections of where they live and how they live and things that they do in their life that could prevent or cause cancer.
We look at, especially in this world the way it is right now, as an instant gratification world, that a study will happen today, we'll find out some results next week, but this is per se a long-term 10, 20, 30-year study?
Yeah, we'll be following people for 20 to 30 years, and this is CPS 3. We're still following people from our cancer prevention study 2. Those people have gotten a little bit older, and we need a younger generation to come in. What we know today is that we know a lot more about cancer than we did when we started to enroll those folks. We live differently today because of technology. We sit a lot more, for example. There's medications we take today that did not exist back then. So we need a new generation to get involved. And the blood sample is new with this study. But through the studies throughout the years, we have found a lot of things that have been crucial to our fight against cancer. For example, the very first study, the Hammond Horn study, we found the link between smoking and lung cancer. And researchers, even involved in the study, they were sure that this was not going to come to fruition, and it did. And look at the Surgeon General's reports and everything that has happened since then because of that study. It's also found the impact of secondhand smoke, the fact that an aspirin a day could reduce your risk of colon cancer, the fact that obesity can impact your risk of more than 10 different cancer sites. And one that came out last year, which I found very interesting, was the amount of time you sit every day affects the longevity of your life. And there's been about 450 results that have come from all of these studies that we've done, and we need to find more. So we need people to enroll to make this study happen.
All right, how do they enroll? The simplest question out there.
It is a simple question. It's yet another website, unfortunately, but people can go to cancerstudymo.org. And when they're there, they can find out about enrollments around St. Louis. Right now, we're enrolling people for the end of April for enrollments at 5 locations around St. Louis City and County, including UMB Bank, Edward Jones, Centene, Siteman Cancer Center, and Merritt's. They're spread out around the city so that hopefully a large amount of people are able to enroll. So you just go to cancerstudymo.org and you'll find out where you can make your appointment and start the process from there. It's real simple.
Again, in the society we live on, people feel that everybody's watching them and taking their stats and everything. Talk to us about the security of this and how safe it is and how the information, I guess, will be secured.
That's a great question because we do get that. It's completely confidential. Employers, for example, even for the people who are hosting these sites, they will not get any of the information. The blood is being drawn by trained and certified phlebotomists from Quest Diagnostics, and the blood will actually be put away. We're not studying the blood right away, but everything is strictly confidential. You won't even actually hear the results of your personal individual results because we're studying the group as a whole, and you'll probably have a number instead of a name. But yeah, the blood will be pulled out later if someone's diagnosed with cancer, or if they're starting to see trends based on people's lifestyles or behaviors, they may pull certain blood samples out to study those further.
And how long will this go, I guess the enrollment go on? Is it a couple of month thing or is it continuous through so many years?
The 5 companies that I listed, those are at the end of April and very 1st of May. We're going to have another enrollment in St. Louis in July, and that may be it. We need to have everyone enrolled by the end of this year. So definitely, if you're interested, this could really make an impact on us and our future generations. So we need to do this in order to save more lives. If you are interested in the least bit, please contact us to find out more. Go to the website, make your appointment. It's such a simple thing to do, and we need you today.
And 300,000 nationwide is what you said?
Yes.
How many here in St. Louis or Missouri are you looking for?
I believe this summer alone we're looking to enroll 1,000 people, and we've been enrolling in the study for a couple years now in the St. Louis County area and in our counties surrounding us.
Sounds great. Get on the website and do it. That's all we can say. With that, as far as the 100th birthday, what an accomplishment.
Yes, we're the official sponsor of birthdays, so what better reason to celebrate? The American Cancer Society is turning 100 years old this year, officially on May 22nd, and it's a great opportunity for us to celebrate the progress that we've made, but also make a commitment to finally finish the fight. We're really proud of a lot of things we've done in the past century. For example, today, 2 out of 3 people survive cancer for at least 5 years. And we've contributed to what is now 400 people a day celebrating a birthday who wouldn't have been celebrating these birthdays before. So we're very proud of that. We've also contributed to a 20% decline in cancer death rates since the early 1990s. 20% is very significant. We're proud of that as well. And we've played a role in nearly every major research breakthrough. We're the largest funder of research dollars outside of the federal government. And we help a lot of people through things like Road to Recovery. Last year alone, the American Cancer Society helped 1 million people who called us for help. And that's rides to treatment, that's a place to stay when your treatment center is away from home, emotional support, clinical trials, matching service, and much, much more. And our work has also led to a 50% drop in smoking rates since the 1960s, which has saved lives, especially from lung cancer. That's just some of the stuff we've done in the last century. But we don't want to stop until it's 3 out of 3 people surviving cancer. So we have to finish.
I was going to say the 100-year look back could be about a 3-hour show.
Oh, it could
Maybe
be.
a 5-hour show.
Yes, we've done a great deal. We've made a lot of progress, but it's no question that there's still more to be done because we still lose people to cancer. So we definitely are very proud of everything we've done, all of our donors, all of our volunteers. We're definitely a force, but we need to come together to make a lot of noise to make sure that we put ourselves out of business.
Sherry, as far as piggybacking on something that April had mentioned about being something that really changes lives throughout the community and the United States, how does it make you feel personally to know that you're involved daily on something that affects so many people's lives?
Well, if I could give you a quick example, I had a Look Good, Feel Better class on Monday where 7 ladies attended, and basically what that class is we offer makeup products to the women, and then we talk about wigs and how to use these makeup products to camouflage the side effects of cancer. Now that might not seem like a huge thing, but to these 7 ladies for those 2 hours, they are laughing, they are learning, they are feeling like they're at a little girl party, and learning some really important things that they can take away that and use in their everyday lives to make them feel more normal, because the first thing they say is when they lose their hair and their skin changes, they don't want to leave the house. So we teach them some tricks on how to do that. So when those ladies leave the room after that class and they're giving you big hugs as they leave and thanking you and telling you that you can't imagine how much they appreciate what you did for them, and in your mind you're thinking it was fun, it was great, and you're so glad that you're able to do that.
No matter where you go, everybody has heard of the American Cancer Society. You hear it through promos, through programs, but I think a lot of people hear it, but until they have to utilize the resources that you guys give through themselves going through cancer or a family member going through cancer, I don't think they really understand exactly the scope of what you guys do.
Well, it's true, because if you didn't need it, why would you call? And it is startling even as a staff member. I've been there 10 years this November, and it's not until someone close to me is diagnosed with cancer that I pick up the phone and actually call our 800 number and ask for help. And I learn things. It is amazing. We have so many specialists in different areas, especially at the 800 number. People can help you with health insurance questions. We have trained oncology nurses who can answer the phone. So we do provide so much. And I think if you don't know enough about us, feel free to look us up, because someday you may be calling us, or your mom may be calling us, or your sister. We do provide a lot, and the 800 number is definitely the first place to start, and that's 800-227-2345.
And I think the influence through awareness months, like especially breast cancer awareness, this is something that has transcended not only to females, but it's worked itself into the male side of things that have become very aware of this scenario for their mothers and their wives and their daughters through promotions through the NFL and sports programs. I mean, you guys have really infiltrated every aspect of life.
As we should. And men should take note, because it's not just about breast cancer in women. There's a lot of things people need to know to help prevent cancer and help find it early. Right now we're in Colon Cancer Awareness Month, and that is a disease that affects men. And so we need men and women to know that when you're 50 years old, you need to be tested for colon cancer. The test can actually prevent colon cancer. If you find a polyp and the doctor can remove it right away, you could be preventing a colon cancer. So the awareness is a no-brainer. And going back to our 100th birthday, I've been learning a lot. None of us are 100 years old. We don't know what it was like in 1913. But back then, it was a C word. People didn't say cancer. If you were diagnosed, you didn't tell your friends and family. You suffered in silence. So to think of how far we've come. And I also saw an advertisement recently. It was a photo from one of our events 75 years ago, and a big sign on the table said, "Cancer is not contagious." So we've come a long way, and the awareness is so important, and it's a big part of what we do.
It makes me think, when you say, even looking back, at 1913, that the C word was a bad, I think even into the 60s and 70s and maybe a little bit of the 80s, this cancer was a bad word.
Yeah, and it was maybe embarrassing to talk about sometimes. People talk about breast cancer and pink in everyday conversation like it's nothing now, but to say the word breast a while ago, maybe, you wouldn't say it, but the people who are behind causes like breast cancer or cancer in general fortunately are no longer being nervous to say the words. And a lot of people, survivors in particular, are very proud of being a survivor, and they want to empower other people and give them hope through their story. And I think that's made a big difference too. People are not afraid to talk about what they went through because they might be changing someone else's life who has been facing the same thing, and it's good to know you're not alone.
C word should be curable, right?
Yes.
All right, as far as the whole message, why we do these shows and why you put out the publicity and everything you do is to be proactive rather than reactive. I'll start with you, Sherry. Can you talk about that scenario of any individual out there, no matter what age you're at, male, female, son, daughter, husband, about being proactive rather than reactive to any of the things we talk about here on the show?
Well, I would much rather inform you about having a screening at the right time in your life and have you go and do that. And even if you were to be diagnosed with cancer, it would be at an early stage that you could quite possibly be cured. That's going to be way better than if I teach you about how, you know, some side effects that you might experience because you've had cancer for, you know, quite a while. And some of the, for example, if you know, you have bleeding from the rectum for several months or even a year and you don't go check that out because you think that a colonoscopy sounds miserable. It just doesn't make sense. The colonoscopy is not a big deal. It's, you know, one small evening out of your life and it could really save your life. So I would much rather teach you about being proactive than have to take care of you because you weren't.
And we are actually working on, I don't want to develop too much information here, but we're actually working on showing how easy the colonoscopy is, with myself doing it on camera, on air, in the near future. So
that's great.
We're working on that, but the goal of that is to show, again, how just a normal individual can just go in and do this and hopefully get a clean bill of health.
And potentially save your life.
And if I might add to that, don't let, you know, if you don't have insurance or something like that, be a barrier for you, especially like mammograms and cervical screenings and things like that. We have programs in Missouri that actually our advocacy department has been real instrumental in getting the funding for those programs. But they will pay for, if someone doesn't have insurance, for example, and they want to be screened for a mammogram, you know, there's programs out there that we can make you aware of if you call our number. So don't let that be a barrier to getting the things that you need screened.
About 30 seconds left here. What would you say to the individual like myself who says, if I don't know about it, it can't hurt me?
Well,
it kind of goes against what we're talking about here today, but so many people feel that, well, you know, I don't.
They do. They do.
I don't want to know.
People are scared, but Sherry hit the nail on the head when she said it's easier to have the conversation at the very beginning when you have more treatment options available and a better chance of survival. So save your life and have the conversation. Don't be afraid. And
a website for everything we talked about here today, whether it's Road to Recovery or basic programs.
The best place to go is cancer.org.
Sounds good. Ladies, thank you so much. We really appreciate your time here on the show. Very informational and educational. April Zubak and Sherry Jurgensen, thank you so much. We appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed the show. Make sure and check out the website. We'll see you tomorrow night right here on News 20 on GTN. Have a good evening.
I remember the moment.
I'll never forget that moment.
That moment?
It was a moment that changed my life. I'd been training with my team for months, and now we had been called up for the first time. The real deal. Wildfires were getting dangerously close to homes. At that moment, I got my first taste of just how important the Guard is to my community.
See how the Guard can be an important part of your life at NationalGuard.com.
Be out there. Be out there.
Be out there. Be out there.
Time was, kids did what came naturally.
spending free time running barefoot through the grass, wading knee-deep in streams, climbing to the tallest branch. But today, American kids are more likely found texting, watching TV, or gazing at a computer screen. They spend more than 7 hours in front of electronic media. Something essential has been lost: childhood's connection to the natural world. That's why National Wildlife Federation created the Be Out There movement. Kids move indoors causes a host of problems, from obesity to ADHD. But outdoor play can go a long way to improving kids' health, body, mind, and spirit. It helps them stay fit, enhances creativity and attention spans, and could even make them better students. Do your part. Be a part of Be Out There. There's a reason why they call it the great outdoors. Learn more at beoutthere.org.